Hi, good evening, and welcome back to another episode from SamosaChai.net series. My name is Rashmita, and I'm the event planner for Microsoft Reactor India. I'm here today joined by our very own host, Nish and Vivek, and of course, our special guest speaker, Swami. Let me bring in Nish and Vivek.
Hello.
Hi.
Vivek, did you just for a second you just went out and came in?
Yeah, that's usual. That's usual, right? Like
That's usual. I
that's
took a
usual.
quick
I
samosa
just went
break.
quick samosa break. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
fast.
So
How
how's
are
Yeah,
you
everyone
both?
doing?
I'm good, all good, excited. Long weekend coming in.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I mean, it's long weekend. It's a Diwali weekend. So those of you who are joining from this side of the world, in India, we are celebrating Diwali, which is Festival of Lights, and we have beautiful stuffs, beautiful dresses, and food and samosas, chais. I don't
And
know like
lots of
what not.
sweets.
And lots of seats.
lots
Yeah,
of
exactly.
sweets.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, she's from Kolkata,
Yes,
so
that's
lots of
that makes
sweet. We
sense.
definitely need to sweets.
lot. Yeah, yeah. And everybody will put
I'm
on
all
weight for
prepared.
sure.
I'm all
Yeah.
prepared. I'm
Oh,
all
Oh,
prepared.
yes.
look at that. What is that?
I'm all.
What exactly is that, Vivek?
It's a thousand wala crackers.
Oh my
So
God, that's fireworks in his house. So we're not sending fire emojis in this stream. We're gonna see Vivek, having fires later on. It'll be fun.
should we do code of conduct?
Yes, yes. Of course, before we start the session, let
Just when we said
us.
fireworks.
Yes.
I was wondering. Yeah, I should do code of conduct before it fires.
So, yes, before we start the session, please read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat section is open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. Our speaker will answer all your questions during the session, so please feel free to drop all your questions in the chat section. With this, thank you all and enjoy the session. Over to you both, Nish and Vivek.
Thank you, Rashmita. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
So, hello everybody. We just realized we didn't greet you all because we were taken away by all the Diwali festive season vibes here. So, very warm welcome to everyone who are joining us from this side of the world. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everyone who's joining from the other side of the world. So, very nice to have you all here. So, drop in your comments and tell us where you're all joining from, so we know. And that gets us excited, right? And also helps us to plan the session better in terms of time zones and things like that too. So Vivek, tell us what are we discussing today?
I have no idea. It's about microservices, right? Yeah, but let's
Ah,
bring Swami in because he sent us a very long list of things he's going to cover today, and I was little like, oh, okay, we have 1 hour and we're going to cover all of these things, which is good, and we should go and see how we're going to spend next 1.5 hour on that. So, hi, Swami, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Vivek. Thanks, Nish. Before that, I would like to throw a disclaimer. Rashmita told that our speaker is going to answer every question. So if I receive a hard question, I'll jump out of the stream and I'll tell that I lost internet connection. I have a excuse to save my skin. So if you see me go, I have backup, and internet is also having backup, 150 Mbps. So never it will go out. But the hardest
so
question will make me go out of this show.
good. So so Swami, so since you said that you have all the backups, so you know what to do when Vivek and I are not able to connect to the internet. You can run the show all by yourself.
Sure.
I don't have the backup.
Because we all have had so we are running the show from how long, Vivek? It's
it's been
about three seasons
it's been
three
a year,
seasons now.
right?
It's been a
Yeah,
year, correct? Yeah.
3 seasons. This is the third
And
season, but yeah, It's
Yeah, and we have had
it's been
glitches
a year
many times.
many times. Yeah.
Many
Uh,
times we've had glitches. Yeah, but yeah,
gl-
it's going to be like that. So what are we going to do? Cool. So
we
tell
have
us,
people from
Swami, what are we going to what are we chatting about today?
Uh, uh, we are going to discuss about microservices, how to create, and few other touch points. Three of us have done 10 episodes of the products microservice. We did spend 10 different episodes. Each episode is from 1 hour to 1 hour 40 minutes ranging. So the term microservice itself is like having some code itself is not enough. Like whatever we explored, like you need to have the code, you need to have the best practices or the layered architecture, you need to have the unit testing, you need to have the scripts, shell scripts or the PowerShell scripts, you need to have the DevOps pipeline, you need to have the process in place, you need to have the static code analysis, you need to have the software composition analysis and infrastructure getting deployed, everything through automation. I will run through what are we going to do. If you don't mind, could you please flash my screen?
Sure. Yeah.
Am I on?
Yes, your screen is
Okay.
visible now. Yes.
Okay, so let me take real quick 2 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes to walk you through. I am still a learner, so apologize if I do any mistake. And so, what are
No,
we going?
Swami, we're going to sue you.
Oh,
You can't make mistakes.
okay. Uh,
Just
I
kidding,
will
guys.
run away from this show. So the links are there. So please fasten your seatbelt. We have a lot of things to do. You already boarded an express train. So we'll see that we'll introduce the products API in .NET 6, and we'll speak about the dependency injection, app settings, Secrets.json, layered architecture. This is in the step 2. I will do a deep dive into the dependency injection. This is one of the demo. It's my favorite demo. Like how does the dependency injection is getting injected, and who is the guy who holds all those dependencies. That is one of the demo which I'm going to give. And then the data transfer object, auto mapper, strongly typed configuration, repository pattern, Serilogs. We can have a quick chart on that. And the next demo which I'm going to do is on if we develop a microservice, how many ways we can execute that. We can execute it in IIS Express, Kestrel, Docker Compose. That is it's a second demo. And then we'll come back and we'll speak about the Terraform. The guys who are born and raised in Azure cloud, we tend to use this ARM templates, and people who are little scared on the number of lines or the syntax of ARM templates, we can use biceps. And it's like when we use biceps, it internally writes the ARM templates. It's like I'm scared about the JavaScript, I'm using TypeScript, but internally it writes the JavaScript. It's like that. And why did we choose Terraform is we thought of to do the same this microservice to deploy in 2 different clouds. So we choose Terraform that can be used if you have a scenario where you have multi-cloud. And some people say that Terraform is less number of lines. I can see the biceps is very similar to the Terraform. It's like less number of lines. The heavy lifting is happening behind the scene. It itself writes the ARM templates, which if we go to the GitHub of Microsoft and see the ARM templates, which we have under 101, we see it is generated by the biceps. Then again, we'll see 30,000 feet, like what is the process we need to have in place. We'll do a deep dive. We can exchange our thoughts on the process. Why do we need the gated build? What is the use of the gated build? What is the use of CI build? And where does this artifacts gets dropped? How does the release picks up and pushes it to the different environments? Then we'll speak about the advantage, or why do we need to have unit test cases, and what is static code analysis, what is software composition analysis, what is the web vulnerability tools, do we need to use it, or do we need to use the JFrog or those kind of scanning tools. Nowadays we are moving towards the containerization, so we definitely need to have those scanning tools to ensure that we are not having any vulnerabilities in our code. And then we will see the GitHub Actions, which uses the Terraform to go ahead and spin up the infrastructure. And then we will see the GitHub Actions, which pushes the image to the Docker Hub. And there's another thing, GitHub Action, which goes and brings in that image from the Docker Hub and deploys to the EKS. And then we'll use the Postman collection. If you see this particular image, I have only one endpoint or a set of URLs. Let's assume I have 5 endpoints, but I can test it with 8 different environments. That's the advantage of having this Postman collection. And this is another demo which I would like to give, just walk through. It's not a deep dive, but at least some of the internals where we will focus on the load balancers and what kind of workloads are there, what is the runtime which is there on this Kubernetes, little bit as far as possible. We'll do it. And then I'll focus on the tooling piece, which is nowadays you don't need to go to either the portal or to the command line. Now, toolings are making us pretty lazy, but I love that tooling because a guy like me who uses click, 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 it makes my life very, very easy. So the 2 demos are here, but this is one thing we will show how we are hitting it. But rest of the things we can do, we can have a discussion, and if needed, we can do a demo dynamically.
Yeah.
Back to
So
you.
yeah, just a quick thing. I mean, I know it's a lot of information to pack in to a 1 hour talk. So I think, Swami, I think you will be sending in this link to every attendee out there, right? So that they can go and try it out themselves if in case we are not able to cover because of the time constraints and things like that. Because I've come with many questions. I have, Swami. I'm going to ask you many, many questions, and
Uh,
and you
I
said
did.
your internet is not going to get disconnected. So
Yes, provided it's a question is easy. If you ask me the first question, my internet will get disconnected.
no, no,
I did
no.
this entire session in 1 hour, 5 minutes.
Okay.
All this 14 bullet points.
Let's target that. Let's get started.
Sure, sir. So, Vivek, if you don't mind, could you please post the speaker series and the eShop products and eShop main, these 3
Yep.
URLs? That will be helpful. Thank you so much. So, let me introduce and start with this project, and couple of things which I'll be giving tips here and there. So one of the first thing what I will do is just first let me introduce this. This is the eShop services products. So it has got API core. The core has got some of the common constants and the configuration and the DTOs, entities, and interfaces. Now, if you see, why did we have something, a configuration? This is strongly typed configuration. So I can pass in or inject I configuration in different layers. Instead of doing that, what we are doing is we are loading this particular MongoDB settings as one of the dependencies. If you see that, we are getting the get section and we are passing in that MongoDB settings. So from that app settings, if you go to that app settings, we will get the MongoDB settings,
Swami,
whatever. Yeah,
just a quick thing. Just a quick thing.
yes, sir.
For the sake of all the viewers, let's I want to understand. Let's talk about microservices, right? Like what are microservices? So that I know you're explaining the web API part right now, but if you can establish what microservices is and why it is relevant now, so that we can get, and then if you can help us understand why web API, that will be a great start to get here.
Okay. So, I mean, microservice in the sense, I am unable to understand that question. I'm really sorry for that.
No worries. So I was asking. I was okay. Anyway, Vivek and I we did an entire series on like about microservices and aspects of microservices. So I was because there will be a lot of newcomers here. So I was saying that let's establish on what microservices is and then understand why Web API in ASP.NET. So then we can
Sure.
go from there. So it just becomes easier.
Sure. Because that is like a
So
pretty open.
generally, yeah,
Yeah.
generally we see in the industry where people use monolithic architecture, right? In terms of
Mm,
like having a database and then having a
mm,
services layer, a cache layer, and then there's a web layer and things like that, right?
mm.
I think the challenge that we all face is because of the cloud scenarios, the scalability becomes extremely difficult because they're all packed into one, and that's why now,
Okay.
right?
I,
So now we make microservices because it becomes easier to scale across, right? So
now I understood. Now I
yeah,
understand. Understood now. Let me flash the screen. So see, some of the things is like, let's take the example of MVC, ASP.NET MVC project, where we have the front end, maybe the web forms or Razor pages, and then we will have the API controllers and the view controllers, and then we'll have different folders to hold the business logic, the data objects, entities, DTOs, and then that's like an entire stack has been inside a big project. And what happens is, if I have to change anything in the business logic layer, or in the stored procedures, or in the data access layer, or in the forms, so for any of these things, I have to go and do the change in the project. That means for if you see that those are four different pieces, but for all those four responsibilities, we have to go and change that one big monolithic project. That is one of the scenario. Another scenario is, you want to deploy, you have to deploy this entire stack. And if you want to scale it, and we have to scale this, all these four pieces, bundle it and scale to the two instances. In fact, if the issue is in the business logic, maybe we are computing, we are doing heavy XML, XML is coming from some other external service, we are doing a transformation, we are not using any other libraries, we are doing our own transformation, which is taking. So if that itself is a bottleneck, but still we are deploying this view, and we are deploying the API controllers, we are deploying the business logic layer, we are deploying this data layer, because that's one big monolithic application we have to
unit,
deploy.
yeah.
So another thing, what people do is they might put it into different layers. The projects are different, but again they bundle it in a single application. It's like monolithic microservice, or some term other authors use when I watch those videos. So now what happens is, if I divide, if I remove the UI piece or the front end piece, and create it as a separate microservice, which has got its code, which has got its build process, which has got its own unit test cases, which has got its own deployment cycle. Like if there is a fix in front end, so I don't need to touch the API layer, or the business logic,
Yeah.
or the data layer, or the stored procedures. So I'm independent. So anytime I want to go, I can go. And when I'm doing a deployment, all I need to worry about the contract between the app and the API. Maybe I'm calling it as a middle tier, maybe the API or gRPC or some other thing. But I should stick to the contract between the app and the middle tier.
Yeah.
So net it is like this, right? So basically, you have an application which is having code, and it is just one set of big application, which you call it as monolithic. For example, if you take an e-commerce website, if you could try and deploy the whole e-commerce website and use it, and if, say, for example, there is a book review service which is running, and book review service is not running, the whole e-commerce website is down,
Gone.
and that's a bad experience for the user, right? So if I have to build this into a proper microservice application, what I'll do is I'm going to break these different services: the catalog service, or the cart service, the bill payment service, the review service, the book review service, or the product review service. It's as a separate services. And if the service is down, the review service is down, but user is still able to add the book or the product into the cart and maybe able to use it and also go and purchase it. So it is not affecting your business, it is not affecting your transactions which is happening even though a particular service is down. That's the nut that's in a nutshell, that's what we are building it. And this is deployed in a different ways, right? So basically, you will have all of these services will have its own database, and it will have its own set of deployment strategy, even the different programming languages for different services. And the way unit tests happen for each of these might be different. The way we deploy this into an infrastructure is different. We might be using different or even multi-cloud as well for different services. So it depends how we want to set this up, though. Anyways, that is
True.
exactly what we are trying to achieve in this discussion as well. This is how it has been set up.
Yeah,
Exactly. I
thank you for
read this.
establishing that, Swami. Because we
Thank
also had a question
you.
from Kandula Santosh Kumar
Yeah.
asking about,
So
they're totally new to microservice. So I think it just makes sense to kind of
okay.
like expand on why microservices conversation is very relevant right as of today.
Thank you. So another thing I would like to bring this point, Nish, from the architectural series from Microsoft book, the eShop on containers, that I was reading about the same thing on, like, we have the product service. Identity is a separate microservice. So if identity is down, people might not be able to log in, but they might be able to browse the products. They might be able to
Yeah,
put the products into the cart. They might not be able to check out because they're unable to log in, or they
yeah,
might be able to check out as a guest. They could do that one also, just give a phone number and do it. Identity is down. Like in a monolithic approach, assume that we have a API and we have added the identity into the same API, that itself is having the products controller and the payment controller. Now identity is for some reason the API is choked, or the CPU or the memory is choked, the API is not responding. That means no identity, no products, no catalog, no payment.
yeah. I think
Very,
I
very
want to
simple.
bring up one more point here. I mean, I know we're talking about e-commerce application where most of the services are relevant when you're to run it. But let's look at step back where a lot of customers are doing LOB applications, just line of business applications, where they're thinking in terms of microservice and things like the biggest advantages of going with microservices for these architect for this style when you especially when you go to cloud is there are many services that need not be running at all because they can have a cold start. When they need to run, they can come up. So that means you can also save cost running in the cloud by not running certain services that are not relevant in a scenario when you don't need it, right? So that's also one important aspect that I wanted to bring it up.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay, let's go
So,
ahead, Swami. Sorry
okay.
to interrupt the flow, but we needed to establish
No, no, no.
microservices, what it is.
I really love that because the question itself was very wide. So I was thinking that what should I hit? So
Okay,
that's the reason I asked. Give me some help in that. Okay.
sorry to put you on the spot. Yeah, let's continue.
I love that. Thanks, sir. So again, if you see this, let me come back to the bulleted points. Um, okay, the first let's speak about this app settings secrets.json and the type strongly typed configuration. So the app settings will have some of this information. So app settings is good for us
Swami,
to
again,
do
I'm
some.
going to interrupt you a little bit here.
Please go
Let's
ahead.
talk about what Web API is, right? Why when we talk about microservices, why we're talking about Web API. So, because in the show we get a lot of newcomers, including
Okay.
into the .NET. So, if we can establish, what that is, that will also be great.
Oh,
Just two
yeah.
lines. That's it. That's all I'm asking.
Sure, sure, sure. So, so we are exposing the set of services through this web API. So we expose some set of functionalities in using this web API. So we create a controller, and then
Yeah.
we will have set of action methods, and and before hitting this, we need to know a little bit of the HTTP verbs. Like when we want to create a new item, so we create it with the post method, and when we want to retrieve everything, so that will be through the get all and get a particular item. So each of those endpoint will point to a particular resource. Like if you say products, if I hit the products endpoint, that will retrieve the entire set of products. If I do a post on products, that means I'm asking to add one product to the existing set of products. Product slash a product ID with get verb means my intention is to retrieve one particular product out of set of available products. And if my intention is put on products with some particular ID, I'm going to replace almost all the fields except some fields which shouldn't be modified. I'm trying to modify the particular product. So patch is one or two fields I'm going to modify, and delete. Most probably the delete is marked for deletion. We don't remove the record, and this is the set of service which will be over DMZ. And the content the by default the content which we receive is JSON, but we can have a content negotiation so that we can receive it in the JSON or XML. So if we track back to the web services which we used to do in .NET 1.x, so at that time we used to have the web services purely that was SOAP over XML. And then from after a few years, we said that we need to go and have the web service, the web API, the REST web API. So representational state transfer. So that's where it has changed the game in this world from SOAP over XML to web API. Now, in this microservices, we can choose gRPC or web API. So first microservice which we choose was this web API. Nish, anything to add?
No, I think yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I think you can continue with the rest.
Okay. So this app settings, we have some of this information which are very, very important to connect. So when we are using this app settings, we need to use only the development connection string. So, but our colleagues needs to know that how to execute this. For them, we will create example.app settings, which will specify that what information should be there. But if you see that when we go into this particular project, we are using a user secrets. How do you go is right mouse click on that and manage user secrets. Okay, so where does this user secrets, if I come into this app settings.json and right mouse click and go to the containing folder, you see that is within the source repository. So anytime I'm checking, I added the connection string of the stage or UAT or production, I fix the bug, and there's a bright chance that I might check in the connection string, even though it is there in the some of the people, they don't add it as part of the git ignore. That means it gets checked in. So what we generally do is we add app settings to the git ignore and we'll create that example.json. And the second important thing is when you use the user secrets, so the user secrets is outside. So if you see this one, it's in C user, whatever is your logged in name, app data, roaming, Microsoft user secrets. So if you go and see that, all those things will be available in the secrets.json. So this can point to any database, but there is no threat that this will get in checked in because this is outside the source repository. So that's the first point I wanted to cover between the app settings and the secrets.json. And the second important thing which I would like to cover is the strongly typed configuration. So if you come and see this one, how do we pass the collection name, connection string, and database? So if we come to this the repository layer, where we need to have the where we need to have this connection string information. We need to have the connection string, database name, and the collection name. I'm not having the I configuration in this layer, in the data layer. But how does this data layer is getting this connection string? So through a strongly typed configuration object. So I've created this I MongoDB settings that's implementing this interface. So at the startup of this API project, we are getting this entire section and loading it in the MongoDB settings class and adding a singleton in iMongoDB settings. So in any of this layer, if I need to connect or this particular connection string, I don't need to pass the I configuration. All I need to pass is this one thing, because I will show you one small example. This is the demo niche. I would like to spend 5 minutes to 8 minutes here. I wanted to show some of the highlights here. So if I come in here in this builder object, and let's do a quick watch on this builder object. You see this configuration, and when we go to this configuration, the I configuration has got the configuration information from 7 different sources. We can add our own sources, but by default, these are the 7 different sources. So it gets it from the AppSettings.json, AppSettings development.json, secrets and environment variables and whatnot, the memory configuration. So some of the times, there are days even I pass this I configuration all over the project. But now, instead of doing that, we are passing the we are passing the we are passing only the things which we are needed. That means I'm not passing the I configuration because it has got a lot more information than what I need. So if I come in and see the services here, we'll come back and we'll do a deep dive into this dependency injection. But at least if you see that this iMongoDB settings, whatever the strongly typed configuration which we loaded, it is there as part of our dependencies. So anywhere we need it, it gets injected. We'll see that in a moment. So I've covered this app settings, secrets.json, and the layered architecture. So why do we need to go in the layered architecture? Is it must that we need to go into this layered architecture, or can't I create a folder and move all these files into that
Swami,
folder? Yeah, Nish, please
just a
go ahead.
quick question. I have a question from the before you move to the next one. There's a question on the configuration. The question is, so it's asked by Arun Prakash. Could you please share the technique about externalizing app setting configuration?
What is that?
So I think he's looking for how do you externalize the configuration, the app setting configuration that you're using, right? How do you externalize it? I think.
Okay, I got it. What is that he's looking at? See this. Generally, what we do is we'll create a configuration service. That service is will be used because in a lot of projects where we in 2010 I worked in the ATM project. So in that ATM project, what will happen is there will be a configuration service which will tell that what kind of languages it should support and what payment method it should support and what should be the screen content. Even the buttons, the labels on the buttons will also come from the configuration server. So I think this is what Prakash is looking at. So Prakash, I'll show you. Just give me a minute. So if you see that in this microservices, So I should know that what should be the CDN host, what should be the CDN host, and what should be the products API folder, what should be the identity. So all this configuration we can move to a separate microservice, the configuration microservice, and other microservices can get their respective configurations. Like suppose if I have to hit the products might have an image folder and it has the CDN host, or if everything is passing through the API gateway, so we have to get the API gateway host. So this configuration service will be hidden. None other than the other microservices knows about this configuration, and we'll get whatever we need it will get injected. Prakash, did I hit your question? Is this what you're looking at?
Yeah, I think we'll take some time for that response to come in. But I'll also add on to one more thing over there is if you're looking, say for example, since you're working on ASP.NET application, and if you're looking to externalize your configuration using something like an Azure App Service, then it is pretty much straightforward. As Swami mentioned, there is secrets, and as long as you initialize secrets, it'll just work great locally with your local settings. But when you create the same setting in your Azure App Settings and then configure the code to just add one line saying add the configuration from the Azure app configuration, then what will happen is when you deploy this code to Azure, it'll automatically pick that configuration from that app service. And it is always recommended to use managed services like that, so that it takes care of holding your configuration. You can go and make changes to the configuration when the code is live. You can do feature management, like you want certain features to be available in certain scenarios, you can do those switches. So it gets you it gets you going with those kind of scenarios in microservices. Cool. Swami, I think
some other,
we can go ahead.
some other thing which we would like to highlight is the key vault. So if you come and see that, Vivek, you can publish this one, Blazor Wasm API SQL Redis cache. In this one, if you see that, this is also one of the way. So you can externalize all your secrets to a secret key vault, Azure key vault, and maybe any resources, maybe a worker process which is executing on your virtual machine, or the Azure function, or the web API. Those all guys can go and get it from the centralized location. So the externalized word itself is opening a host number of options, but Nish and I, we try to cover different things. One is the configuration service, and one, Nish, as Nish was mentioning, you can have this app service, app configuration inside the app, and you have configuration service in Azure, and you can use the key vault, or you can use the Secrets.json. You can do multiple things. Okay, so but the word externalize is a generic term. You could have hope we would have hit the
Since you're using Kubernetes as well to deploy this, you can also use Kubernetes secrets.
secrets, yes,
Or config maps as well to map,
right.
make sure that you take care of these configurations.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
let's go ahead.
Even in Kubernetes architecture, in the architecture center, I see they sometimes refer to the key vault. Okay, so keeping that aside, let me come back to. Oh, did I lose myself? Okay, no, I'm on track. So the next thing is dependency injection. Okay, now let's understand this. How does this dependency injection, or the dependency what we need, gets injected? Let's assume that API, this API has got dependency on business logic layer, and the business logic layer has got dependency on the data access layer, and the data access layer has got a dependency on the DB context, which is not in this picture. Assume that there is something called DB context. So here A has got dependency on B has got dependency on C has got dependency on D, but D doesn't have dependency. So in this chain of dependencies, the first guy who gets constructed is D. The DB context will get constructed, and that gets injected in the DAL layer, and the DAL gets injected in the BAL layer. BAL gets constructed and gets injected in the API layer. So imagine that you have a bank account. You did not deposit anything into your bank account and you go and swipe your ATM card. So you'll get a transaction decline. So you have deposited money and you go and swipe your ATM card, you get money. So it's like that. So you need to add the dependency to the container and then go and ask for the dependency. So let me show you that. So the first thing is, let's go into this core and put a debugger over here. Okay. Let me come to this data project, and in this context, so we have this MongoDB settings. So I'll put a debugger over here, and I'll put a debugger in this MongoDB settings. Okay, this one. And the next thing is the repository layer. That repository layer, let's put a debugger over here, and let's put a debugger inside this. We'll spend 2 minutes over here. First, we'll understand that how does the dependencies are getting injected. Then we'll see that who is the guy who holds that. We'll see that. So I'm breaking this demo into 2 pieces. Okay, we'll do a deep dive into that in next 2 minutes. First, let me execute this. And we'll see that. As just imagine that the last man standing in the queue who does not have any dependencies. Okay, last man standing in the queue who does not have any dependency will be constructed first. So that's the rule of the thumb. So let me come in here and just go and get products. Let me hit it. So see that. So the first thing, last man standing, he doesn't have any dependencies. This guy will get constructed first, and he gets injected to the context. So if you see that, the context, this is here. Okay, so the next thing is I'll remove this. Now the product context got created and it gets injected in the repository. If you see that right now the product context is null. So when I do an F10 twice, and if I see this one, the product context has got the this products, which is there from the context which we created. Now, if I go and hit F5, now you see that now the product repository is null. So the moment I come and see that, now the products controller has got repository which got injected, and the repository got the products context, and the product context has got a dependency on the DB settings which got injected from the singleton which we already injected. Now someone can ask, hey, I didn't inject anything on this logger. How does this logger is coming? That's a pretty good question which we will explore next. So the first thing is, here is the first one which we are starting. Our life starts here in this project. Let me put the debugger over here where we go ahead and create it. Let me start this. So this focus, this is very important. It takes 2 minutes time to understand. Now, when we create this builder, and inside this, if we go to the builder, there is this one, the service collection. If you see that by default, there are 81 dependencies which got injected. So if you expand this result view, you see that iLogger, iConfiguration, these I options, a lot of this console formatter, a lot of things which are getting injected. So for lack of better term, I'm using this as default injected or coming from out of the box injection. Okay, so we are injecting here. Now we have seen that as and when I start injecting more and more things here, let's see, I'm using this extension methods to configure my project dependencies. So let's stop here and do a quick watch into this one. And you see that 86. So if you go and expand this result view and scroll to the bottom, and you see that iProduct repository, iProduct context, iMapper, the configuration option, the MongoDB settings. These are the application dependencies which we are injecting. And there are some of the dependencies which are coming out of the box. So now if you see that the moment we add this add controller, now the dependencies will get exploded like anything. So a lot of things are coming. So from all the way from 86, it goes to 177. So the two important things we need to understand is there is a dependency container. I mean, it holds all the dependencies. So if we want any of our application dependencies to be injected anywhere in our solution, it is our duty to go and inject it here in this. Okay. So if you see this one, this is one
So,
of the
Swami,
yes,
just
yes.
one thing. Just I'm keeping a time watch.
Mm,
So basically, uh, now we have the code, right? So there is a
mm,
code. There are services which is there, bunch of
mm,
services we have, and let's move on to the next step where how, because we are almost like 45 minutes into the show,
okay,
so we want to cover most of the things. So let's move on to like how do you containerize this,
sure,
and then how do you go and deploy this in the cloud, and
sure.
then what is your strategy for DevOps perspective. We'll keep that discussion to like 3 to 4 things where we'll cover couple of things which is there from your GitHub Actions to and
Sure.
also at the end probably we can talk about the Terraform which you have. Uh,
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think I'll ask all the audiences to send in your questions because Swami is loaded with content. So and if we sit now, maybe till next Sunday, we will be doing the entire show. So what we want to do is to make sure that we ask him the right questions and get him to answer the right content for us to help, right? So
This
uh,
I'm taking this as a compliment, not as a satiric.
oh, I told you totally as a compliment. I told you as a compliment. I was not, because I remember the time when we reached out to you to tell us, okay, Swami, what are you going to cover? And you send me a 3-page document on this is what I'm going to cover. And we were like, oh, wait a minute. We only have a 1 hour show. And then we decided,
we,
okay, we will steer things according to the questions that's coming in. So
Sure, sir. Sure. So, guys, let me do this one step, and then we'll go to the DevOps stuff. So, when we when we are learning DevOps, you at least you need some kind of scripts to containerize. Okay, so we have written all these scripts over here. So containers to ACI and containers to Docker. So all it's like you will create a build. You'll do a Docker build, and you give the context is very important. So from which location you are executing, the context is very important, and then you will go and get it, and then Docker push. So Vivek will give you guys the URL. If you see, whatever we are discussing is a summary of 12 hours plus content. So all the 10 sessions, whatever we did it, that summary we are talking about. So you guys can go get into the documentation and the videos there, do a deep dive into that. But I would like to take 2 minutes to speak about the tooling. And when you're executing this API locally, you can execute with Kestrel, IIS server, and Docker Compose. Why? What considerations you need to do when you're using in Docker, and why do you choose Docker Compose? That's very important. So first thing is, I'm not going to hit again and again because we saw that products will definitely come. Only in this IIS Express will hit, but rest of the things will learn things. So when you go to this IIS Express, you see that there is a small icon which comes in here. You can right mouse click on that. You can see that what all the URLs here and the show application. So I'll just hit get products here, and again for next three things I will not hit it, but we will learn different things. So products will definitely come. So that is coming from the MongoDB container, which is getting executed as part of this one. So the second important thing is, where are these profiles coming from? So these profiles are coming from this properties over here. So you can go to this launch settings where you can see these profiles, the Docker, IIS Express, and the Products API. And what should be the launch browser is Swagger. That's the reason the Swagger is coming. So if I go and select the project name, whatever is this project name, When I execute it, you'll see that there is an external window, and that's you'll not see that icon, the IIS Express icon, but in fact you will see an external icon. So we switched on the Serilog here. So this is the second part. This is pretty easy. So there's nothing to worry about this one. Now let's go and execute it through the Docker. This is where we need to focus a lot. Okay, so now I will speak about the tooling. Nowadays, the tooling has become such a powerful thing, and such a powerful thing. So it is making us lazy and lazy. Let me go to that Docker Hub. If you see my Docker Hub registry, the first Docker image I created was 8 years ago in 2014 September. I just created. And at the time, to play with Docker, you need to have two Unix virtual machine. And one you will have a daemon, and in another one you will have a client, and that's where you establish. That's you need to go through the hell to set up the Docker. Now you don't need to do, you just click an executable that creates it. Okay, we'll come back to this one. So I'm telling that how the tooling has become very, very advanced. So when I execute this Docker, now you have one ID, maybe Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio or any tool for that matter. So those guys are adding flexibilities and functionalities. You imagine those functionalities are coming in. So now to showcase one of the thing, I will not execute it, but I'll tell you. Now to find out what is the IP, I need to do a Docker inspect. I need to do a Docker inspect on this one. This is executing through the Docker. I'm not going to hit it, but let's find out rest of the things. I need to go through hell to find out what is the IP address of that container. So now I don't need to do this one. Like if you go to this Docker desktop and you can find inspect, and you will see that, and you can have this CLI. That means we are doing a Docker exec. Now if I do ls, I see the entire all the files here. So you have a Docker file and all these things, whatever we are seeing here in this project, we are seeing it. Now coming back to this one, this is one time we will execute it because we will face a problem. I want to highlight that problem. Why? When you are executing. Now imagine this one, the MongoDB is already inside the Docker container. And now Web API you're executing. So there are two different containers. No, you don't know. The A container doesn't know what B is. B container doesn't know what A is. Now MongoDB is already there, which is successfully executing here. Okay. Now the Products API is also in the same container, in the Docker container, but these two people don't know each other. Now we need to marry them. So it will throw an exception. That's good. That's what we wanted. Okay. So we'll stop there. Now come back to this containers. And to get that guy's ID, we used to go through a lot of pain. Now see the tooling, how powerful the tooling is. Now click on that. Now you see this environment variables, label, ports, volumes, logs. Okay. So the volumes is very important topic. I already kept it. You see this volume. What happens is if you go by whatever is coming by default, when you delete the container, you lose the data. It doesn't make sense if you use the SQL Server, MongoDB, or any of your data store to lose the data. So it has to be in the persistent store. So we will attach the volumes. That's one tip I would like to give. Another tip is when you're executing in these kind of scenarios, you will go to the details and come all the way to the down, all the way to the bottom. You see that what is that IP address 172.17.0.2. So it's 0.2. So how do you inject that? Come back to the launch settings. And where is the Docker profile? So it is 0.3. So it should be 0.2. So now the API container is talking to the MongoDB container through the IP address of the MongoDB. Another important thing is imagine a scenario where 5 to 10 years ago, for installing a database, you need to get an executable, you need to install that, and you need to spend half hour to 1 hour. And if something goes wrong, again, you need to do the reinstall. Now there's nothing. It's just Docker pull MongoDB. done, it's come, and start creating it. So that's one tip I wanted to give. So couple of tips, like use containers as much as possible. When you're using containers, you can use environment variables to inject and get the containers, and tooling is so powerful. You don't need to do a Docker inspect or Docker exec. You don't need to remember anything. All you do is just select that, and like this, you go and select it, and that does automatic exec into that particular container. You don't need to spend much of the time, and it gives logs like anything. Now, another important thing is, why do you need to spend time on Docker Compose? Because imagine a scenario where the MongoDB container which is executing, I stop it, and now I execute the API. How does the API know whether the MongoDB is up or not? We don't know. So that's the reason what we do is we generally marry these two containers using the Docker Compose. So imagine the Docker Compose is like a Pujari who's marrying this API and MongoDB. So here what's happening is, the very pretty important things is you can inject this, and also what you're telling is depends on. You're saying that the products API should not come up until and unless the products DB is there. So I'll just show this one important piece, and we can spend 30 seconds to 1 minute on the discussion on the Docker Compose. So here, if you stop this MongoDB, if you stop the MongoDB, that means for some reason the MongoDB is unable to start. The API will not come into picture because we added the dependencies. Okay, now that's getting booted up. We will see that, and then we can go to the discussion. In the meanwhile, I'll come back and get the slide ready for us to discuss here. These 4 things which we have seen, and we'll see this one. This is very, very important discussion. Okay, this guy will come up. We will see that in 1 or 2 minutes. We don't want to waste time.
Yeah, let's go to DevOps process there.
Yeah, right. So if you when you're starting any project, you need to have this process in place. So the main branch, if you see, let me take my this project, whatever we are doing. So this project, we have the code, okay, and you will see bunch of pull requests. Okay, you see that 130 pull requests has been done. So we have a lot of pull requests. And first, let me explain this one. So the main branch has to be secure. So each one of the team members, let's assume Vivek, Nish, and I, we are 3 team members. So when we are doing any of the work item, we will create our own feature branch. So we will push the code to the feature branch, and then we'll raise the pull request. The moment we raise the pull request, there should be a build. We call it as a gated build. That build should execute. What is that which happens in this gated build? The gated build will ensure that the code is in a compilable state, and it has got proper set of unit test cases, and it has run the static analysis code. That means you don't have unit test cases. That means you are definitely going to have the sleepless nights. Okay. Now you don't have this static code analysis. That means you're definitely going to have problems down the lane. Okay. So first thing is, before the code review happens, we need to ensure that the code is in a compilable state, has got proper unit test cases, has got static code analysis. Then 2 people will review, and then once they approve, the code gets merged into master branch. Once the master branch is done, again, all these 3 things will happen. On top of that, if something else has to be happen, that can also go in. Okay, like you can have a software composition analysis, like the hierarchy. Like I'm using Nish library, and Nish said that it is a GNU license. Now I use Nish library and I sold it to Vivek. Now Nish will sue me. He says that I gave you this license to use as a open source. Now you sold it to Vivek. Now you need to make your code either open source, or I'm going to sue you. There are people who lost their fortune without knowing this one. So the software composition analysis tool is a must. So apart from those things, what does this CI build does? It generates an artifacts and put it in a drop location. So the release pipeline will get it from the drop location and create the particular environments. Now here, one thing, this is my personal opinion. I'm not pointing anyone. I'm sorry if I'm hurting anyone's sentiment, but the code review tool has to be used properly. It should not be used to trouble your team members. I know that Nish is little weak in TypeScript, and anytime Nish raise the pull request, I go and do 100 comments on it. And tomorrow again, I'll wait for Nish to raise another pull request and again go and comment it. So I feel that why do we need to? Why does a tech lead or an architect go and do the pull request every day? Because he's wasting his time. Now, first time when I see Nish doing some mistakes, I can verbally speak to him. I can approve its suggestions and create a wiki page saying that, hey, you should have the variable should have underscore at the top level, and you should not use static methods. You should implement the interfaces. Write down anytime your team member does any mistake, approve its suggestions, and then write it in the documentation. Next time he raises a pull request, ask him to go through the wiki, check all those bulleted points, then raise a pull request. It doesn't make sense. I go and sit and do the code review again and again. I'm wasting my time. Why don't I make it black and white and ask rest of the team members to go and check it? Did I cross the line, Nish, in this one? I think I felt it like this, like someone senior resource wasting time doing the same code review again and again. Why don't we document? Put it like we have the best practices code review documentation in C# in Microsoft. Like that, put it to the team wiki. You'll save a lot of time.
Yeah, all you know, we in future the AI is going to assist in all those things, right? Something like Copilot, it's going to immediately tell you you're doing the wrong thing, right?
I know.
Anyway, Swami, I'm going to ask you one question from the
Yes, sir.
from our viewers here. Karthik, he's asking, what do you mean by artifacts?
Artifacts, that's pretty good question. I'll show you that. Now let's go to this GitHub action in this one. This one, I'll go here and I've executed this. There's a CI build. Once you go to this CI build, so upload the artifacts, like whatever you publish, .NET publish. So whatever you publish, you do a .NET publish on the release mode. So all these binaries, okay, all these binaries, or I'm calling it as an artifact for the lack of better word. This will be zipped and uploaded. So where do you see that? If you go to that summary, if you go to the summary at the bottom or at the top, you will see that. One second. Let me come in here. We go to the old one. I'll show you that artifacts.
Yeah, I think just to, while you're doing that, I'll just explain that. I mean, artifacts is simply a product that you have built. It could be from your source code, a DLL, or a exe, or anything that is your final shipment, right?
Here.
So that's the artifact, and what you want to do with next with that, that's what it is trying to do. Yeah, I mean, there's a follow-up on that. Is, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe all DLLs bundled up in a zip. Yes, it could be. Yes, whatever is your final product of that step is called the artifacts.
.NET publish. See this, I have this artifact here, I downloaded. Now if I show in the folder, I can see that here. This zip contains all these binaries. I mean, whatever is the previous step. So you can see that what happens in this publish. So all these things which are getting into that folder, the publish folder, those are the artifacts which gets deployed. Okay.
Yeah. There's one more question from me. I think it came in a little earlier when you were talking about the containers. So let me just bring that up one second. So the question is, which one is the best practice to back up database periodically when running database on container? So it's again from Arun Prakash. The question is, how do you?
I told, isn't it? So the thing is that here is the volumes, isn't it? So the persistent volumes, and if you go to this,
I mean, he's asking about the best practice to back up the database periodically.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, I will come to that. One second. Release.
That depends on the way you want to strategize. And it also depends, right? And basically sometimes this is a high important database and you just don't want to lose any data, so you want to keep backing it up every 5 seconds or something like that, and you want to make sure that it's been backed up. And it also depends on what kind of database you're using as well for backing,
See, let's
and what
assume
you want. Yeah.
yeah, we have volumes. Okay. At first step is we will create a volumes. Imagine a scenario in you have a volume, and to that volume you have backed up with the Azure file share. And Azure file share you can put it in the backup, isn't it? And the other thing is the strategy. The best practice of the strategy depends upon what is your SLA, recovery point, and how quick you want to come from the disaster recovery. Because you have a file share, and I mount that file share as into this container, and I'll create a volume to that volume mount. So now what happens is the the database files are not inside the cluster; it is in the file share. So that's one level. Even if the entire cluster goes down, even if the entire cluster goes down, your data is in that file share. And whatever the data store, maybe the redundant, locally redundant, zone redundant, RAGRS, those kind of redundancy, you take it. So your content which is there in the file share will get backed up. Hope I answered this, Prakash.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
actually shared a link where there are 3 different strategies, so you can take a look at it. So we can move
And
on
if you
to the next
ask
one.
me, don't run database on containers in production. That's what managed databases are for.
Yeah,
So, I
that
mean,
would be
but
my
there could be
advice to.
scenarios where you want to do it, but then you can follow these best practices that shared by both of them. But that's my
Nish,
suggestion. Yep.
Any day I will go for pass layers. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure it has been backed up and maintained by the service
Somebody
provider,
else, which is not me, right?
which is not me.
Nish,
I was a
this
DevOps
is the
head.
architect.
I know. It's
Yeah.
scary.
Nish, this
Yes,
is the
Swami.
artifact
Yes.
Nish I was talking about.
Cool.
So zip file
Cool.
I downloaded took some time. Okay, cool. So we spoke about this DevOps. Hey, someone who asked those commands, I kept it here. You guys can go and watch it. So this is done. Now, unit testing, static code analysis, and software composition analysis. I spoke about this one, but let's focus more on the uh, GitHub Actions. Yeah, here in this one. Let's go and see this workflows over this. And here the key
So
thing is,
Swami,
yeah.
just
Yeah.
for understanding, so you have the code, you have packaged it in a, you've built an image, and you have those thing ready, and you have this image on Docker Hub, I believe, or
Yes.
in some place, and
Yeah.
then you're trying to deploy this on Kubernetes, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so that is
Yeah.
where you're using GitHub Actions, and to deploy even Kubernetes service, you're using Terraforms.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So there are two things, two repositories. Let me speak about the first repository. So this repository has got this infrastructure folder. So inside this infrastructure folder, I have these variables, main, backend, a lot of things are there. So these are the Terraform files. I have one GitHub action. Now this is the GitHub action, and I'm using the reusable workflows. So first step is it does scan the Terraform using checkout, and the next one is it does a gated build. That means it does validate. It doesn't do anything. Now this is validate and plan, and deploy, validate, plan, format, validate, plan, and apply. And this guy invokes everything. So if I want to view the workflow file, I can view this workflow file. Let me come here, view the workflow file. We can see this. This is very small because I have moved everything. See, reusable file. You're passing a lot of parameters. So once it executes, you can see that when we go to this summary, and you can see this step, deploy infra to Azure. If you go to this one, so it does the setup, it does init, it does format, it does validate, it does plan, it does apply. So anytime you see the red color, orange or red color or orange, I'm little colorblind kind of thing, red color hyphen symbol, that means it is deleting those resources. So anytime you see the green color plus symbol, that means it is adding the resources. Anytime you see tilde, amber color tilde, orange or amber, whatever the color, that means it is changing the resources. That's one important thing. And if you come to this one over here, and you see this build and push the Docker image, this YAML, you see that have the Docker username and the path token and Docker login into that. And then I'm using this image and the GitHub token, and I'm just tagging it and doing the Docker build. And that pushes to this one. You can see every time the different tags it will come. I just pushed a couple days ago. And the next in the workflow is to deploy, get this from the Docker Hub and deploy it to the AKS. So here the important thing is the Docker username and the Azure credentials. This is coming from the service principal. Okay. And the cluster name and the group. So it goes and brings in, it gets that, and it deploys. The key thing to observe here is there are two projects. One is the project main, eShop main, and one is eShop products. Now, when you see that eShop products, this guy is doing all these things. He does a gated build, he does a CI build, and CI build is dropping an artifact. Suppose if you want to use the app service or Azure container instance or something else, you can use those artifacts. The other route in the same workflow is you can create a Docker image and use the Docker image to push it to the AKS or to any containers for the matter of fact. The key, very, very key thing is reusable workflow. This is eShop products. Now coming back to the eShop main, we are hitting this workflow. We are hitting the workflow which is from the other project, other repository, from eShop products. I am reusing that workflow. That's the good thing about this one. Let's see that. How did I do that? See this. I'm saying that go and, because it's within my organization, Vishipilor, eShop products. But right now we are inside eShop main. If you see that all the other workflow .github means it goes it is pointing to the same repository .github all the reusable workflow. But one key thing is I'm deploying the infrastructure, and also I need to deploy the entire solution. At this point of time, we are having only one microservice. So Vishipilor eShop services products, and I'm hitting it. So I'm saying inherit. So inherit in the sense we need to come to the settings and we need to ensure that all the things which are required, secrets, we have to create. So what are the secrets which are being used here? So the Azure credentials, and that itself is enough because the Docker container is Vishipilor. I'm not pushing it. All I need to know is the name. Anyone can pull this image, Vishipilor eShop services products latest. It will come and deploy. Okay. Now let's come back to the resource groups. There are two resource groups it creates. One is this one, where it will have the cluster, and one is the node resource group. And here it will create everything. I mean, all the Terraform files are there here, folks. If you want, you can give that a shot. Vivek will publish those URLs, eShop main and eShop products. So in this entire solution, right now we only have one. So still 2-3 years time I will take to develop this. Okay. Jokes apart. I mean, definitely it might take 3 years or 30 years. I don't know. So other videos and its documentation is here.
So just to summarize to the audience, what we are trying to show here is Basically, we wrote code and we had specific services, and we wanted to deploy that services, and we containerized it. And once we have containerized the application, so we are storing those images in the registry, Docker registry, and then we want to deploy this code to Kubernetes. And how we are doing it is basically we are creating two different kinds of infrastructure with Terraforms. One is for testing, one is for production, and then we are deploying that code to these two different infrastructures using the GitHub Actions. And the GitHub Actions, obviously, all the settings which is needs to be done, all the Azure credentials and everything is taken care already there, and that is what is being showcased here, right? I mean, that's a summary.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, you nailed it. Because Azure Container Registry, GitHub Registry, these are pending. So wish list, we put it here. So we will revisit this, but at least we stopping the products microservice and we are going ahead with the second microservice, which is the client application. We started our work heavy on the client side web. That work is done. I don't want to derail our session, so let me come back here. So you see this, we have the log analytics workspace and the cluster. Now I want to highlight a couple of pieces. The one resource group which will have the cluster, there will be another resource group which will have the rest of the resources. Now in this resource, you will see that you will have public IPs. I'll come back to the public IPs and the load balancer, but you will see the network security group and the virtual machine scale set, the virtual network, and some of those managed identities. So all the resources which are backing up this cluster is here. So when I come back to the cluster at a high level, I'll go, and again, we'll do a deep dive about the public IP and how are we reaching it. It's very important. When we come to the namespace, you'll see that these are some of the systems namespace, and we see the workloads, what kind of workloads are there, because I want to focus only on a couple of things, because I don't want to derail the points which we want to discuss. So when I'm deploying to the default namespace, which is not a good practice, but I'm doing it for the time being. We will come back and fix it. Okay. So if you see that gatekeeper controller, a lot of other controllers are there, but let's stick to the things which we want to discuss. So in the workload, I want to highlight a couple of things. Is this pods? Okay, we have a lot of pods, and out of those pods, we will have our pods also. See this eShop API and eShop MongoDB. And if you come and see that is in virtual machine 0 and the API is in virtual machine 1. So it properly put it in two different nodes. Okay. And I don't want to focus on any of these things, but I would definitely want to highlight one important point, which I will come back and show you for sure. Yeah, in the
So
notes.
Swami,
Yeah,
we have 2 to 3 minutes, so we just want to make sure that we conclude and open it to the audience to ask questions.
sure.
Uh,
I
so
will take.
because
I'll take
we
8
cannot do
minutes.
all the demos here,
Yeah, yeah,
it will
yeah.
keep going. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just make it real quick. So from the services, if you come to the services, you see that 52 to 26 237. That's the public IP. Come and do an API slash v1 slash products. So now that goes and hits the MongoDB, this MongoDB from here. So the key thing what I wanted to highlight here is the load balancing. So when we come to the load balancers, is very important point is the Kubernetes load balancer that we have seen in the node resource group. We have seen it here, this Kubernetes. This is the load balancer which gets created. And also it creates two public IPs. Okay. So if you come and see this front end IP, one is this one, which is pointing to 52, 226, 237 is this one. So that means if I come and check this public IP, so that is the one which is pointing to the load balancing rule. Let's go back to the backend pools. If you see the backend pools, you see that one is Kubernetes, and the one which it creates by default when we create the cluster, it is allowing the nodes to speak outbound, and the Kubernetes is inbound. That means it says that now here it is allowing inside. Now, if you come to that health pro, if you come to that health pro, you see that 325566. So if we come back to this one, you see that 32566. Port 80 is the container port inside the pod, and that's the node port. So 32566. So what is this saying is technically, if you hit to this load balancer and that role, it goes and hits the node port, which in turn goes and hits the port 80, and that gives the data. Thanks. So somehow I wrapped it in 1 hour 20 minutes. Back to you, Nish. You can stop sharing my screen. Please do let me know.
Yeah, stop sharing
Yeah.
your screen.
Thank you.
That
It is
was
definitely
fully packed
fully
content,
loaded.
and
It's all
we have
fireworks.
comments.
It's all fireworks, no? It's Diwali.
If you want me to showcase my fireworks, I can do it now.
No, no, it's okay.
I think next time
You
we
already
call
showed
Swami.
it. You already showed one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Next time
definitely.
when we call Swami, we cannot do samosa chai. Instead, we should think about breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and do an entire 24-hour session on this, because he's packed with so much of content. So we have already posted those links out there. So feel free to go and check it out. It's all his hard work there. There are 10 sessions, if I'm correct, Swami,
Yes,
right?
sir. 10
Yeah.
sessions, and the client saga is starting November 4th. So that will be the client saga.
What's Client Saga?
That's a client application, Angular
Oh, you
14.
mean pattern?
Patterns,
Uh,
saga
uh,
patterns.
so client application we are starting Angular 14, and that will get integrated, and the client is TypeScript and Angular, and the configuration service is Azure function with Node.js and TypeScript. So we are showing different flavors like .NET 6, Node.js, and the user service, which I'm starting it in Spring Boot and Java, that is in Java Spring Boot. And
Okay, so this is
Azure
part of the
Cosmos.
Reactor event, is it?
I'm creating it separately. That I told that I will start this series in from mid 2023, because I don't have other microservices. Because if I start, it should flow like this.
Yeah.
Chennai Express. I can't stop. So it's there. 6 months time is there, but I will start everything from the reactor.
Oh,
Vivek, you're laughing on me.
No, I'm
Okay.
checking at the. I'm checking at the comments. There are a bunch of comments which is coming in, and a lot of appreciation and things. Thank you very much from the audience. If you have any questions, just post it. While you're thinking about a question, I just want to say, okay, we have bunch of sessions which is coming up next week, I believe, Nish, which is if you're new to .NET, if you're new to C Sharp, we are going to have almost 2 hours of session. Both myself and Nish will be doing a lot of hands-on things, starting
that's
with
going to be
Hello World.
hands-on. Yeah,
Yeah, that's going to be hands-on. That's
hands-on.
completely
That's
hands-on.
going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. We're going to have fun too. So do join us there, and you can also keep a watch on what's next on our website. We have a static website, Azure static website. So you
Yeah.
can also check that out.
Pretty
And we
quickly,
are also running some cloud skill challenge as well if you want to get started with .NET, right? And pretty much we have covered everything in that cloud skill challenge. It's an amazing learn path. So just go back and deep dive into all of these learn path. Any questions coming in, Nish?
Not yet, but if we have 2 minutes, I just want to talk about the .NET Conf, which is coming up, and then
Yep.
right. Okay,
Oh, we
let
have
me make
watch
sure.
party as well.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to show. So everyone, if you haven't heard about this, go check this out. .NET. This is an yearly event. It's completely virtual, and we have a lot of amazing stuff packed here with .NET 7 coming in, .NET from the core. It has been envisioned to be a cloud ready, work on Kubernetes, work on Docker, and all those kind of things. So if you want to know more, join into this session. What I wanted to tell you is if you are from India and Bangalore, we're doing a watch party here. So if you go to the local events, so if you're anywhere else in the world, just check out your local events because we have tied up with Microsoft Reactors and there are like a bunch of events that's there, especially for student zones and other folks. So this is, if you look at this one, get up to speed with latest of .NET Bangalore. So this is a live event, and we're doing it late night because of the time zone. It starts at 8 p.m. So, and we have very limited slots. So, because you are a Samosa Chai viewer, we want to let you know early before we do all the socials. So you can come and join us at 8 p.m. And join us for the watch party. Both Vivek and I will be there, and if you have questions, we'll be happy to answer those. Right? Cool. So that was great. Thank you, Swami. I really, really appreciate it. It's really amazing when someone comes with a packed content, and then actually it's not amazing. It's dilemma, right? Whether to let people continue or it's so interesting, it's so exciting. He's showing this amazing thing in Kubernetes. Wait a minute, we need to stop ourselves. There's time running out, right? It's but yeah, thank you, Swami, for being patient with us and allowing us to stop you in between and taking those
I
not
would
so
like
hard
to.
questions, I guess.
Oh yeah, yes, exactly. If not, you would have seen me run away from the show. I'm still here means you guys have asked easy questions, and I would like to thank Mr. Deepak Rajendran for Azure credits, which made me experiment this and give it back to the community. So
You are an
and all-
MVP, aren't you?
yes, sir, I'm an MVP.
Okay, so you're a Microsoft MVP, so that
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, yeah. I mean, your contribution is really valuable in all the
yeah.
areas. So don't thank us for the Azure credits because we need to thank you for those amazing work that you're doing in the community.
Because I was able to spin up these clusters multiple times. I have failed hundreds of times when I'm trying this Terraform, and I'm able to sustain the billing is because Microsoft has given me those credits to play around all the Visual Studio 2022 Enterprise Edition. So a lot of experiments I'm doing. So thanks to Microsoft and Mr. Deepak. And we have our the series which I'm doing on AZ certification, AZ 204. There were 22 episodes. There's one session tomorrow morning, 3 hours.
Cool.
Perfect.
Do you want to
Cool.
answer this question? Fuel
Oh,
Snapple. I hope I'm pronouncing your
well,
name
no,
right.
no, no. It's not. It's not for that one. There are a lot of other advantages are there. Like if you don't mind, could you please flash my screen again?
we have ran out of time, so we need to stop you there. Sorry.
Okay. No,
You have
no,
to tell
no,
in
no
maybe
problem. But I'll
5
explain that.
seconds or less. Cool.
So he's still doing the demo.
Oh, I'm just on the show that like these kind of solution map diagrams, which you will not have it in your regular. This is one of the example, and there's a lot of other facilities which you'll get it in the enterprise edition. Is if you want to do the UI automation. Okay, so you will have those and the code coverage tools. So a lot of things which I have seen it. I didn't explore much, but you see that load test will come with this enterprise and the solution map. If you want, I can go ahead and ask it to generate the solution map. So it gets created the solution map, and a lot of other advantages are there. Now you can stop sharing. So it's not only this one, because see, I'll give you a simple example. Like if you take a pizza which has got only cheese topping. Okay, now you want a pizza with pineapple and olive topping. You need to pay more. Definitely, you're not going to pay more if we give the same cheese pizza and ask more money. True.
So,
So,
so Swami, the show is about samosas. So,
okay, okay, onion samosa and corn samosa.
paneer samosa, you need to pay more for paneer samosa. Okay.
Paneer samosa. You nailed it.
Okay. Okay. Great. It's great chatting up. Thanks, Swami, coming here and sharing all these things with us. And thank you, Nish, as always. Thank you, Rashmita. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, audience, for being here. It was an amazing
Thanks, Nish.
discussion. We learned a lot of stuff too. Uh, Great show. So we'll catch up in next few days in another hands-on demos. And yep, after Diwali. Happy Diwali, everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks,
Take care.
Nish and
Bye.
Vivek, for inviting me as a guest speaker. And hope you will invite me next time. If you're not inviting me, then I'll understand that I didn't do a good job now.
Oh no, you did a good job. Thank you.
Happy Diwali, sir.
Bye
Bye.
Thank
bye.
you. Take care. Bye.